Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. For those of you that joined us in March and April for our Ahead of the Curve series, welcome back. This is our next webinar that we're doing. For those of you that are new to the series, welcome. Glad to have you on with us today. Before we get kicked off here, let's just do a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, this session is being recorded. All lines are muted. If you do have questions, please just jot them in the question box there. We will have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. We do have a lot of people coming from all over the world today. So if you do have any issues with your audio, and sometimes that's the case, you can just log out and log back in again. Alternatively, there's probably a phone number there that's part of the audio segment of our webinar tech here that you can dial in, and sometimes that's a little bit better. Just a quick introduction here about WSI. For those of you that don't know, WSI has been around for 25 years. Literally, we've helped hundreds of thousands of businesses across the world, across multiple industries. And we know that digital marketing can be very complex. And so our goal here with some of these webinars is to deconstruct a little bit of that, provide tips and strategies that businesses can apply here in their business today. Hopefully you can take a few tips from our session that we're going through today. So our session today is about 7 data-driven ways to reach your ideal customer using digital marketing. We've talked in the past, for those of you that were on our Ahead of the Curve, we talked about identifying your ideal customer and or what we call a persona. But a lot of times we get questions about, okay, we've defined our persona, but where do we actually reach them? How do we market to these people and find them? And so today we're going to look at some of the different tactics of marketing to the personas, where you find them, so that you can reach your target audience. Now, our guest today is Gabor Marcus. He's coming to us from Switzerland, actually on vacation. So thank you, Gabor, for taking time out of your vacation to join us. Gabor is one of the authors of WSI's best-selling book, Digital Minds. Gabor also runs a successful agency in Europe. He's an international speaker. He's also a lecturer on digital transformation at the Bachelor in Executive Programs at the University of Applied Science in Geneva. So, Gabor, are you there with us?
I am. Thank you very much for this introduction.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone.
So welcome. And I know you got a lot of great information to share, so I'll hand it over to you to take us through your presentation.
Yeah, thanks. So today I would like to address 3 points on the agenda. First is what is effective marketing. Then we will deep down about the 7 ways to reach your ideal customer. And we will talk about persona as introduced by Mike. And then at the end, we'll do a little recap showing you our real case and a summary. Next slide, please. So before going in the presentation, I would like to launch a short poll, and it's going to be a multiple choice poll. And the question is pretty easy. It's what type of digital ads are you currently leveraging in your business? So you can use multiple choice, and I will wait for about 30 seconds so you can vote.
Okay, great. Keep that open for maybe another 5 seconds here. Okay, great.
So how's the results? Okay, interesting. So 1/3 of the audience has already done some Google PPC. 2/3 of the audience have done social ads, very interesting. Display, about 20%. Oh, 30% about video ads, that's great. And 1/4 of the audience haven't done anything yet. Oh, very interesting, good to know. Thank you. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So effective marketing is about sending the right message to the right person at the right time. And so the key point here is the right person. So in order to figure out the right person, there is a technique called persona. And this technique was well described by my friend Cormac from Ireland in this book. It's chapter 2, actually. And his definition is pretty long, but I'm going to read it to you. And if you want more, don't hesitate to read the book. And it's about, it says like this: a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on a combination of market research, customer demographic, behavior, and real data about your customer, existing customer, along with your own understanding of their motivation and the challenge. So in short, is your job as a marketer is to understand how your customer wants to buy and help them to do that. Next slide, please. So the best way to select which channel is the most suited for the persona you're trying to reach is to start what you know about the prospect. So the first type of data you can have is about their intent. And one of the greatest platforms to understand what is the intent of your prospect or future customer is Google. Next slide, please. So here are a few key figures about Google. So it's more than over 1 billion users currently. It's about 100 billion searches a month, which makes about 40,000 search queries every second. And one other interesting data to know about Google is that almost 2/3 of the searches are done from a mobile device. That's pretty important to know. Next slide, please. So if you go on a Google page, it looks like this. On the top, I added what we call a keyword. That's basically the intent of your internet users. And here I typed in the title of this presentation. It's data-driven marketing. And the first thing you can see, the four first position are all ads. So it means there are businesses who are paying Google through an auction system for this specific keyword in order to show their ads, in order to attract you to their website. So, and this tactic is called PPC, for pay per click. So you pay, sorry, can you, yeah, no, never mind. So you pay only once the internet user clicks on it. So it provides very strong, high quality leads. We call this type of leads bottom of the funnel leads. And they are searching for related item, and the better you define your keyword, the higher is the likelihood to convert them. It's pretty simple and straightforward in the design, and it allows you to drive a certain amount of traffic for a fixed budget every month. You can also add your location as a keyword, so it will help you to better target a specific customer. And one great thing, so you started with some data with your persona, and once you start running a campaign on Google, you will gather another type of data. And here I wanted to share some screenshots of the report I share with my customers. So on the left-hand side, you see the executive summary, and the first line is all about traffic data. So you will see the number of impressions, so it means the number of times you had the ads as appear on a search engine page. Then the second number is the number of clicks. So it's the times of an internet user has clicked on your ads. And then you have a percentage number, which is the magic number, we call it the CTR. So the click-through rate is the number of clicks divided by the number of impression. And the last number is basically your budget. On the second line, you will see all conversion-related data. So here on my screenshot, I have two types of conversion. Is conversion are people who filled the form directly on the website, or people who called. Since more than the half of internet users are using their mobile phone, a lot of people rather want to click to call instead of filling out a form. And the last number, where you see CHF for Swiss francs about 46.76, it's the cost per lead. So in this specific account, it is about $50 to get a lead. You see also on the right, on the top and on the bottom, two other types of data, which is pretty important to optimize your campaign. The first one is about the conversion, and the second one is about the device. Next slide, please. So another way to reach out to your prospect is to know who they are, and it's basically the demographic. And here you have two great platforms for doing that. The first one is Facebook, and the second one is Instagram. So let me share you some key data about Facebook. So Facebook is by far the largest social media, and it has 2.5 billion of users. So 74% of these users check their app every day, and they spend more than 35 minutes on Facebook. And one interesting data also to know is that half of the internet users who are not using Facebook live with someone who has a Facebook, and Facebook knows that. And the last data I wanted to share you, it's more about the format and the platform, is that there is about 8 billion views of videos, and that's a pretty important figure to know. Next slide, please. Instagram has half of the user. It's only 1 billion, sorry, but 60% of them are logging daily, and is by far the second most engaged network after Facebook. Here, the daily spend on this platform is only 15 minutes, and they upload about 95 million pictures every day. And the interesting fact here is, so you have only 60%, so 600 million people connecting, but they do 4.2 Instagram likes every day. And one other data which is interesting in contrast to Facebook is that the audience is much younger than on Facebook, and 90% of the users are less than 35 years old. But before going further down, I wanted to show this metaphor where I wanted to make you aware that what you can see from Facebook is by far only a small proportion about the data Facebook knows about us. It's like an iceberg. And so this is a great platform for targeting specific audience based on their network, on their hobby, on their interest. And you can also target them for the profession. But in the opposition to Google, it's not based on keyword. And Facebook is notorious for its ability to optimize ad performance by using conversion data, by the fact that you will have their campaign optimized by the conversion. It's pretty easy to manage it, and you have three broad types of campaigns. One is for awareness, the second one is for consideration, and the last one is for conversion. So how does it look like an ad on Facebook? So here you have a screenshot of my Facebook page, and you will see on the feed, it feels like a native post, but there will be a small indication, which we have highlighted with the arrows. It's called sponsored. So this means that this post has been paid by the advertiser to appear on your feed. And you have another location on your Facebook page. It's on the right-hand side, where you have different displays. Next screen. Here, I wanted to show you, since Facebook is many platforms, you can also target your ads on different platforms. On the left-hand side, you have the Messenger, so the chat tool from Facebook, where you see the Santa Claus, which is basically an ad between some conversation I have with my family and friends. And on the right-hand side, it's the same kind of layout than on Facebook. It's an ad where you see also the little tag called sponsored on Instagram. Next slide, please. So one great tool to use, absolutely to use on Facebook, is called the Facebook Lookalike Engine. So it's basically a segmentation tool which is available on many platforms, but basically on Facebook and Instagram. And it helps you to find users based on your actual customer list or prospect list, which have the same interest or similar interest of your existing followers or customers. So it means basically you will inject about 100 or 200 of the emails of your company, and then Facebook will make a matching, will use its matching algorithm to find a audience base of 2,000, 3,000, or even bigger size of audience. And that's a really great tool to target more personas. Next slide, please. So here again, a screenshot of the dashboard I share with my customer. So it's the same layout as with the Google. Basically, you have an executive summary where the first line is all about traffic data, so number of impressions, number of clicks. and then you have the famous CTR. And on the second line, you will see different type of conversion. So you can have different type of a conversion. You can bring traffic to your website, to your landing page, or you can have a lead form directly on the Facebook ads where they can pull out the Facebook user data. Or you can also track the number of likes. So this famous social proof, which will increase the likelihood of converting. And on the right-hand side of the slides, you will see other data, demographics and device performance. And this data will help you to refine your persona. Next slide, please. So here a few tips I wanted to share to consider when you're advising advertising on Facebook. So UGC, which is user-generated content, is the best content. So you have to pay attention that you need to have a kind of content which feels native to the feed. And if you don't, then your ad will have less success. And that's why your ads are usually easy to ignore. So one thing you need to consider when you're doing your ads is that you need to capture the attention of the user within 3 seconds. You remember the last data I showed about Facebook, that there are about 8 billion views of video every day on Facebook. So a lot of ads are now video, and unfortunately, most of the videos are in muted mode. So if you want your message to come through your video, you have to use subtitles. And last tip is make ads which are engaging your users, like having comments or share, because this will increase your reach and it will also increase your conversion rate. A third type of data you can have about your prospect is based on the professional life. So what do they do? And a great platform to do ads about professional, especially if you're on B2B, is LinkedIn. So a few key data about LinkedIn. There's about 660 million users, and 100 million of them are accessing these platforms on a monthly basis. And here, 57%, so more than they have, are checking their LinkedIn app from a mobile device. So how does an ad look like on a LinkedIn platform? So it's very similar to the Facebook. So you have posts which appear in the natural feed. And here, instead of having the word sponsored, you will have a word called promoted. On the feed, on the right-hand side, you have also a display where it's a sponsored display. And on the top, you have a type of ads like on Google's, which is search ads, which are based usually on keywords. So there are these 3 different locations on the Facebook page where you can have good ads. So this type of ads are best suited for business to business. And you can target based on job function, on seniority, on company size, also on different verticals. Next slide, please. The first type of data you can have about your prospect is based on their location. So since most of the users are using their smartphone, it's like a tracking device. So you can track them based on GPS data, so on geographic location. You can also track them on IP data, so based on which network they're using with their internet protocol. Or there is a third technique called geofencing. That's a tip we're using, and I would like to share you how it works. So basically what you do, you draw a virtual fence around a location. And what will happen is once your individual, so your target will arrive in this place, he's going to be tagged, or he or she is going to be tagged. And as soon as she or he leaves this geofenced area, he will get your ads regardless where they are. So let me share an example about that. I have a customer who is a Mercedes-Benz dealership. And one great tactic we're using, we have geofence all his competitor. So we fence BMW dealership, we fence Volvo dealership, we fence Lexus dealerships. And that's very effective since we know once a customer or prospect goes to another dealership, the likelihood to convert to buy a car or to do a servicing, it's going to be pretty high. So it's a very efficient way to get good leads. Next slide, please. A fifth type of data you can have about your prospects is what they are saying, and a great platform to listen and to interrupt a discussion, a conversation, is Twitter. So Twitter has much less users than the other platform we have viewed. It's only about 330 million users. But one interesting fact about Twitter is about 500 million, so 500 million people visit Twitter every month without logging in. So the audience is much bigger than the users. And on a daily basis, you have more than 500 million tweets, which makes about 6,000 tweets every second. So there is a lot of conversation going on Twitter. And a good example of an ad which was very successful was done by this Papa John's. And basically what they did is every time they were watching or listening to a conversation where it was used the word, I'm hungry, I'm starving, pizza, something like that, they were showing this ad saying, sorry to interrupt your conversation, but we would like to offer you this 50% off coupon. And that was just a blast, because for acquisition cost of less than 30 cents, I think they managed to generate millions of revenue by selling good pizza. Next slide. Yeah. Sixth type of data you can have about your prospect is what are they watching. So video is huge, as shown previously, and a great platform to do video ads is YouTube. So YouTube belongs to the Google ecosystem. It's almost 2 billion of users, and there is about 300 hours of video uploaded every minute on YouTube. And people are watching more than 1 billion hours every day. And they watch about 40 minutes on a daily basis, and more than half of YouTube comes from mobile device again. So how does it look like an ad on YouTube? So you have different types, but one type is what we call pre-roll. It's a short video, it's a short clip before the video you would like to watch. And you can skip this video after a few seconds, usually between 3 to 5. And there is another type of ads where you have it on the right-hand side. It's a display ads, and you can also click on this. Next slide. The second type of ads you can have is what we call mid-roll. So it's in the middle of the video, then you have a short interaction with another clip or displays like here. And here in this slide, I wanted to show you a typical example of a poor targeting campaign, where this was on the iPad, my iPad, but that was what my daughter, she's 6 years old, and she likes to watch videos about toys and cartoons. And here she was watching this video about a toy, and she was interrupted with some ads where I was refurbishing my house, so I was looking for an electrician. And then there was another type of ad just in the middle of the screen for Excel-like product. So be aware that YouTube ads work best when they are short, engaging, and they have a clear call to action that viewers can click on. As for the other platform, there is a built-in analytics, and it's a good tool, or it's a good way to check these analytics in order to improve, to optimize your ads in order to avoid this poor targeting, as my daughter was suffering when watching her video about toys. Next slide, please. And the last way to target your prospect is where they have surfed, so where they have been already on internet. So let me show you how it works. So remarketing is basically you have an internet user coming to your website. You track this user using a little code called cookies, and for whatever reason, he leaves without converting your website. And what you do is, as soon as you go back on an internet page, you would like to place your ads in order to bring it back to your website so he can convert again. So we call it the secret weapon because it's very effective. So by doing these remarketing tactics or retargeting tactics, you increase your cost of your campaign between 15 to 20%, but usually you can increase the performance of the entire campaign by 50%. So that's from financial perspective is very interesting. And then you have a great bonus is also that you have a powerful branding impact, because your ads will follow your internet, your prospect throughout his journey on internet. So that's something I recommend everyone to use. So let me share a few examples how it looks like. You have on the left-hand side a website page where you see there's a double-side banner. And on the right-hand side, you see a screenshot of a Facebook page where there's two types of ads, which was actually, I haven't seen them before. It was just coming on my screen after I checked some of the pages. So next slide, please. I know I give you a lot of data here with these 7 ways to target your audience. And I think the best way to summarize that is to show you a real life example. So as I talked previously, I have a customer who is a Mercedes-Benz dealer. And currently, now in the summertime, we are using different ways of advertising their offers. First, since it's summertime, we would like to get most of the people buying convertibles. It's the best time, especially here in Switzerland. We have sometimes longer winter time, and summer is nice and hot. And it's a great time to sell convertible cars. And the best way to do that is to get what we call this famous bottom of the funnel leads, and is the Google the best platform. The second type of car we're using, and this is more suited for personas on Facebook, is selling RV cars. Especially now with the coronavirus, a lot of people are not traveling abroad. They rather stay here within the country, domestic, and they would like to have their own car and their own hotel. And we find out that doing ads for RV vehicle on Facebook and Instagram was very, very efficient. The third example is from a professional standpoint. There was a lot of subsidies given to companies now during this corona outbreak. And some enterprise or businesses have decided to renew their fleet using this credit. And we did a lot of interesting campaigns on LinkedIn saying that you will have a 0% interest rate for financial if you change your fleet of your company. And it was depending on the brand and the model and also the fleet size. The fourth channel we were using is, as I told you previously, is this famous geofencing. So we always do that, and it's very efficient. Just targeting, fencing your competitors. That brings you very easy leads and good converting leads. We haven't used Twitter. It is not effective for this vertical, at least in my market. Next is that was more for top of the funnel leads. So it was more about branding, visibility, gaining awareness of some prospect, is sharing nice videos about cars. And once we do that and people watch the video after a certain length, what we do usually, we retarget them while bringing a small ads and trying to bring the viewer of the video to a landing page with a special offer. I think that's it. So in summary, please use our graphic as a guide. You can also find it in our book. So refine your persona, find which are the favorite platforms. Once you know that, go on this platform, evaluate the demand of the product of your service on this platform, make an attractive offer and adapt it to the platform. You will not market the same way on Google, on Instagram, on YouTube. So you have really pay attention to have the right format with the right wording, and then test it, refine it, use always the analytics so you can optimize your campaign and try to drive down your cost per acquisition. So for the same amount of budget, you will generate more and more leads. And that was my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Gabor. And so some great tips there. We've got a number of questions coming in, so that's great, and we'll definitely get to that. Before we get to the questions, just a quick reminder: if you've got any questions about any of these platforms, or certainly the process of going through and building a persona, definitely talk to your WSI consultant who would have invited you to our webinar today. If you don't know who that is, just reach out to us, contact at WSI World, and we'll definitely have somebody following up with you on that. Also, just want to remind people, as Gabor had mentioned, our 3rd edition of Digital Minds bestseller is out and available on Amazon and other online book retailers. You just type in WSI Digital Minds. And so certainly there's a number of chapters in there, Gabor's chapter, obviously, the persona chapter, some of the other ones as well. And if you missed our Ahead of the Curve, certainly you can reach out and we can get you access to some of those Ahead of the Curve sessions as well. So we've got some Q&A here, Gabor. So let me just get to that. So one of the questions that we had coming in was just about Facebook advertising. And it had to do with, one of the questions was, sometimes there's a sort of a conception that I can only advertise or I can only market to my connections. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because, obviously Facebook will allow you to market to a much broader audience.
Right. So one option is, as I've shown you previously, is this famous lookalike audience. So based on a given database of your customer or your prospect, you can inject this data on Facebook, and they will generate what they call a lookalike audience. And you will use this lookalike audience then to promote your ads. So basically what it means, you start with a list. You should have at least 100 emails. And based off this list of 100 emails, then you can generate an audience of thousands of people you can target to with your ads. So it's not limited only to your connection. It's much wider. And you can really do laser targeting. So you can really target the good personas with the right interest.
Right, for sure. And I think one of the things that you talked about was, the difference between Google and Facebook. Google is that bottom of the funnel where people already have the intent because they're going into Google and they're searching for what they're looking for. And so being able to serve up ads that sort of address that is really a bottom of the funnel. Whereas Facebook, as you said, using this lookalike audience, and when you understand your persona, which is so important to do this persona exercise, then you're really targeting the individuals to try and create the demand for your product.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point. So in our jargon, sorry, maybe I'm going to be technical. For us, Google is more a demand fulfillment platform. So you don't generate new demand, you just fulfill the demand. Whereas Facebook is really a demand generation platform. You can use it more to generate new demand.
We have a question just about remarketing, because I think that's certainly a key thing. And I think the stats that you showed is relating to remarketing is much more inexpensive to target somebody. And so the question is, what would be the process, I guess, to start remarketing to somebody?
Well, so remarketing means that you have to have first a prospect to retarget, right? So it won't work before you create a first campaign, and you need a certain amount of people clicking. And usually, in my case, in my agency, we wait about 1,000 clicks before retargeting on this audience. So we want to create a certain amount of audience. And once we have this audience, then we will start our retargeting campaigns with specific displays and with specific criteria to retarget. So you have to pay attention not to annoy your audience. So the frequency and also the length of how much you retarget, because if you bomb them with 10 times a day is the same display, you might bother some people and also hurt your brand.
Right. And so is that where the cookies come in? Like we hear about, hey, you have to accept cookies from a lot of the websites and things like that. Is that where that comes in? Because they're collecting, they kind of know you visited, and then based on that, you can now start to advertise to them again?
Yeah, that's for some platform they use cookies. For Facebook, they don't use cookies because since you are a Facebook user, they can retarget you already. You're already tagged. So it depends on which platform you would like to remarket or retarget. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Cookies is a part of it.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions just around industries, and so one of the questions here was just about marketing to specific verticals. Like in this case, they're referencing doctors and dentists, things like that. or weight loss, for example? Are there restrictions in terms of advertising to some of these verticals?
Yeah, they're. I don't know how to formulate that. Yeah, so Google and Facebook have a lot of restrictions, especially when it's about your health. So you have to pay close attention to that. And it also depends country to country. So for instance, in my country, in Switzerland, uh, most of the treatment you cannot retarget, but plastic surgeon, you can do ads. So, dentist, homeopath, general physician, they cannot do ads, but plastic surgeon, they are allowed to in Switzerland. And I know that varies from countries to countries.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So I would say one of the things is check with your consultant
Exactly.
who can kind of identify what's, where the restrictions may be on certain ads for specific verticals. This is an interesting question. I really like this one. It has to do with geofencing. And so, this concept of geofencing a competitor, which obviously you're doing, is really powerful because, in some ways, somebody walking onto a BMW dealership already has the intent in many cases of buying a car. So it's a perfect audience. But the question is just around, if I'm a BMW dealership and I don't want my dealership to be geofenced, do you know, is there any kind of anything that they can do to prevent that?
Nope. The only thing you can do is geofence your competition. But
Right. So
there's
they
no
should be
defense.
geofencing your Mercedes client.
Right.
Okay, great. One other a question here, just in terms of marketing specific different services. So, we talk about obviously Mercedes, your example there, they're selling a product. What about services? Any kind of tips or strategies? This one here was specifically around a training course, for example, but
Okay.
as it relates to service-based businesses, any kind of tips or strategies you'd recommend there?
Oh, so I have a great example for training. I think it was a couple of years ago. I did a great Facebook campaign for a school who was doing a special certificate, which occurs every 5 years in Switzerland, and it's I don't know how to translate that, but it's to do big site construction. You have to have a very specific diploma, and you have to wait every 5 years. And so we managed to do very good ads in order to bring people to the information session. So we're attracting leads to go in an information session just by using Facebook. And we managed to get about 500 leads, and you only needed 25 to start the course. So it's working pretty fine for training and for courses. Another type of service, so for my agency, also I managed to do also some good ads for persona workshop with these kind of services.
Okay, excellent. Let's see here. We had a question just about Instagram. So we talked about Facebook, and you talked about some of the, your example of how you're targeting on Facebook with, and some of the different ways of doing that. With Instagram, obviously, I know Facebook and Instagram are very connected. And
Yeah.
so if you're marketing on Facebook, are you automatically marketing on Instagram? Is there a different approach when you're talking about marketing on Instagram? What do you find there?
So, well, you can boost, so you can sponsor posts directly from the Instagram application, but you can also go on what we call the Facebook Business Manager, and there you can select which channels, which channels you would like to advertise. So you can say I would like Facebook only, or I would like on Instagram only, on Messenger. And usually that's pretty complex. So the best would be to talk to your website consultant. Uh, but my personal experience is I have much higher conversion rates using Facebook and Messenger than Instagram. It's not working well in my market. So. But I think the best is to talk to your website consultant to find the specifics about Instagram. And Instagram algorithm is evolving very fast. They release a lot of new tools for shopping, and it's pretty to
Right.
test. Yeah.
For sure. And I would think if you know your persona is, you talked about 90% of users on Instagram are under the age of 35
35. Yeah.
35. If you know that your persona that you're targeting is under 35, then Instagram could very well be a great platform for you to be looking at marketing.
You know, I have my kids with my Mercedes dealership, and they have Class A, so it's the very small version, the entry level of Mercedes, and that's very targeted to millennials, so 20, 25. And the best leads we get is out of Facebook, it's not out of Instagram. So
Okay.
I don't have good experience yet with Instagram.
Okay, excellent. Let's just see here. We'll take a couple more questions. Another question just in regards to geofence. Is there any restriction on the size of the geofence that you can do?
I'm not aware of that, but usually it depends on the size of your competition. So another way to use geofencing is if you have events. So if you go to a fair and you cannot attend the fair, you can kind of geofence the facility, and that's great. Or you can also, if you do sporting events, you can geofence a stadium, something like that. Or I know politicians, they do also something like this when they have a rally and they geofence all the people coming to the event and also the parking area. So I don't think there is a limitation, but you have to pay attention because that will have a direct impact on your audience size and also the conversion rate.
Okay, excellent. Well, we had some great questions. I know there's some other questions here that we weren't able to get to today, but obviously we'll make sure whoever invited you to the presentation, they can follow up with you just on those specific questions. I do want to just remind people, we will be at the end of the webinar here, we're going to be running, you'll see a quick survey pop up. Tell us what you thought about our session today, and also anything that you'd be interested in hearing more about, because our goal here obviously is to bring in some of these experts to talk about digital marketing so that you can pick up some tips and tricks and so forth that you can apply to your business. So, tell us what you'd like to hear more about. And again, just reach out to your consultant if you've got any additional questions. And our Digital Minds book, certainly if that's of interest to you, you can pick that up on Amazon or other online booksellers. So once again, thank you very much, Gabor, for taking time out of your vacation. Thank you, everybody, for attending and the great questions that we have. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you on the next session. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Stay safe.